Have you ever wondered why one song's lyrics just work while others don't? What in our brains tells us that lyrics are good? Hi, my name is Aster, and welcome to Lyric Theory 101. Let's bring more beautiful lyrics into the world. To start us off, I want to talk about rhymes. Rhyme has been a standard of English language poems for about 1,000 years now, and a millennium of use can really ingrain something into your brain, can't it? Our ears love rhymes. The final syllable or syllables of a line of poetry are the ones that catch our attention the most, and our brains then anticipate subsequent rhymes. If we don't get a proper rhyme, it can be almost distressing. So let's learn about the deeper mechanics of rhyming and how it can be used to our advantage. When we hear the word rhyme, our first thought is usually perfect rhymes. A perfect rhyme is exactly what it sounds like, two words that have identical ending phonemes. Our minds will probably also conjure what's called a single or masculine rhyme. Single rhymes are the majority of rhymes and the easiest to use. They're any pair of rhyming words that have a single stressed syllable at the end. Blue and you, see and agree, go and below. Notice how not all these words are monosyllabic or only one syllable. What matters in the world of rhyme is the final stressed syllable. When the final stressed syllable is the second to last syllable, we get a double or feminine rhyme. Treasure and measure, going and showing, feather and together. Disclaimer, the use of masculine and feminine here comes from French grammar. Please do not argue in the comments. Anyway, this use of emphasis is why trying to mix single and double rhymes often sounds awkward. Friday doesn't rhyme with way because the emphasis is on the initial fry syllable. The movie Wish provides a great example of this mistake in Welcome to Roses.
I mentioned when you turn 18, you get to give your wish at a ceremony.
When you say the words in regular speech, 18 and ceremony don't line up because the emphasis is on different syllables. You can sometimes get around this by extending notes and spacing out beats. You can rhyme done and everyone if you space out everyone. But generally, it's a good rule not to mix masculine and feminine rhymes. For words where the third to last syllable is the final stress, there's dactylic or triple rhymes. Placation and vacation, piety and society, location and vocation. As you can tell from these examples, you don't come across these very often, and they're very hard to use because the words available are so few and far between. A way to get around this is the fact that double and triple rhymes don't have to be single words either. They can be made up of phrases. So why is this so important to distinguish? Because rhyme and rhythm are sisters. See, they even have similar letters. Single rhymes provide a solid ending beat, which makes them the most versatile and easy to use. Consider a song like Prince Ali or Be Our Guest. These are very fast and witty songs and rely heavily on single rhymes to drive the rhythm.
Genuflect, show some respect, down on one knee.
We'll prepare and serve with flair a culinary cabaret.
They're a sharp way to end a line. Since our brains are most focused on what the rhyme of a line will be, it can also be used to hammer home important words. Consider the plagues from Prince of Egypt. The end of each line is very emphasized and the words chosen have a lot of weight to them. Double rhymes can help create some variance. Once Upon a December from Anastasia switches between single and double rhymes in its famous chorus, driving an elegant waltz beat.
Glowing dim as an ember, it yearns to remember.
Old Man River from Showboat does something similar, and in my opinion, it makes certain lines sound more tired and sorrowful by having a weak syllable at the end. It sounds like a sigh.
Them that plants them is soon forgotten.
Triple rhymes are rare, as discussed before, but when used correctly, they can be a real joy. Poisoning Pigeons in the Park, a comedy song by Tom Lehrer, manages to employ them in every verse. They can be really fun to use, but since the words available can be so few, far between, and irrelevant to one another, you have to be really clever about it.
We've gained notoriety and caused much anxiety in the Audubon Society.
Now, this whole time we've been talking about perfect rhymes. In older songs and musical numbers, perfect rhymes are almost always the way to go. For more modern songs, however, there's heavy use of something called a slant rhyme or half rhyme. These are words that sound similar but aren't a perfect match in consonants and vowels. Slant rhymes can open up a ton of new possibilities by giving you a larger pool of words to choose from for your rhymes, and there's no shame in using them either. You still have to be careful with slant rhymes, though. Not all slants are created equal. Slant rhymes usually employ something called assonance. This is when parts of a word sound similar, but not the whole word. In terms of rhyming, it mostly refers to when the vowels and stresses are the same, but not the consonants. For example, fake and hate. It can also extend to double rhymes, like promise and honest. Still, like I said, not all slant rhymes are created equal. Let's break that down. Look at the examples I used just now. Consonants matter. For fake and hate, the consonants are K and T. These are both very hard and sharp sounds. Honest and promise also work because of how close N and M sound to our ears. Further, the second syllables both have a form of the soft S sound, even if honest uses an ST. Now, let's say for the single rhyme I used hate and cage. It doesn't sound as analogous. While T is a hard sound, G is a softer consonant. This ever so slightly affects the way the syllable rings. The sharp T cuts off the vowel immediately, but the soft G allows for more room. Listen to how I say each word. Hate. Cage. While this can still be employed as a rhyme, it's like a tier down on the slant rhyme hierarchy. Multisyllabic words can get more complicated. My general rule of thumb is that you should aim for matching the emphasized syllable. The weak syllable can have looser rules. If I rhyme promise with constant, we see the stronger connection between prom and com than between the sounds of miss and tint. However, when we say it out loud, promise, constant, it passes the ear test decently well. If you're feeling really spicy, you can start playing around with the vowels too. Some vowels do sound pretty close to others, especially in singing. Vocalists like to bend certain vowels because they're easier to sing. Long E, short I, and short E can sometimes blend together and sound indistinguishable. Notice how in Teenage Dream by Katy Perry, she rhymes racing with jeans, and it still kind of works. Another pair of vowels like this is aw versus It really depends on the singing though, and can sound noticeable if not used properly. Slant rhymes are basically the standard in modern songs of all genres. After all, words can just be an instrument rather than the focus. That's a topic for another video though. Pop songs can really stretch the definition of a slant. Rap often employs assonance for the sake of keeping a strong beat to the song, and can be used to help transition between different rhyme schemes. That's probably a good place to remind ourselves that because of accents and pronunciation, rhyme can in fact be subjective, even perfect rhymes. As an example, I pronounce the word Y-O-U-R as your, but you might pronounce it as your. That changes our options. You can see this a lot in old poetry, where a pair of words may not rhyme in your brain when you read them, but you have to remember that things were said differently back then. It's best to hear the words actually be said out loud before you judge the quality of a rhyme. Moving on, another thing rhymes can do is bond words together. There are a lot of rhyming pairs that, for lack of a better term, just make sense. Bright and light. We associate these words strongly with each other because, well, lights can be bright. You can add white to that pair too. Bright, white, light. With proper context, we can create an image in our heads by using rhyme. These words are what I call bonded rhymes. It's a term I invented, so it's not like real, but bear with me. In my video about the opening number for Hunchback of Notre Dame, I briefly discussed this. Stephen Schwartz rhymed the words spilt and guilt, and I commented on how these two words felt bonded together because of how they relate to each other in the context of the couplet. Blood has been spilt, and that should lead to guilt. We've now created a connection between these two words. As I mentioned before, our ears have been trained to listen most closely for rhyming words in a song. When we hear two words bonded like this, our brain subconsciously sees the relationship, strengthening the imagery further if it's there. Our brains love patterns and will seek them out wherever we can. Use that to your greatest advantage. Best way to do this is by using consistent rhyme schemes. Rhyme schemes set up those patterns that our brain likes. When you follow a scheme well, you give the listener that sweet dopamine release because they receive what they expect. If you use a particularly great rhyme, it feels even better. Or maybe that's just me. If you don't follow a rhyme scheme consistently, it can be disruptive. Of course, you can still use this in a positive way. Maybe you want your audience to feel uncomfortable or surprised. Further, switching up the rhyme scheme keeps a song fresh, as long as your listeners adjust to it. We'll discuss this more in the next lesson. Okay, that was a lot of talk about rhymes. If you put up with me to this point, you've learned about the different types of rhymes and how to use them. It will help you build stanzas. But how do you structure those stanzas? In the next lesson, we'll discuss song structure. I hope to see you then. That's all for today's lesson on lyric theory. I hope you learned something. If you like this video, check out my other videos on Disney song analysis. Subscribe to my channel, and even my Patreon if you like. Patreon will get you early access to videos, the ability to vote on video topics, and when I get more members, a lot of other cool stuff. Have a wonderful day.